Hello, welcome to the first episode of the Creative Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Adwoa Akoto, an actor, writer, model, and entrepreneur. And today we have Joe Barton. So I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Hello, I am Joe Barton. I'm a writer. I'm a screenwriter for television and film. I have done my credits include things like Humans, Giri Haji, The Ritual, My Days of Mercy. I'm generally struggling to remember all the things I've written, but those are the main ones.
Great.
Extinction, starring you.
Hello. And that's out in 2022, so watch out for that. So Joe was very modest, we didn't talk about how many BAFTAs Giri Haji's been nominated for. And obviously you're now the new showrunner on the Batman sequel and also Cloverfield. So
Yes.
those are two really amazing big movements that are happening. And I guess they'll be filming sometime later this year.
The Batman one, maybe. Possibly. Cloverfield, I don't know. I haven't written either of them yet. But I think so it maybe this year, maybe next year. Independent.
Cool. Okay, so we're just gonna go right from the top because I read that you was a driver on a feature film.
Yeah.
Cass, that's kind of how you started, which I was like, oh, that's really cool to know, because before I became an actress and got into the industry and was trying to find my footing in, I was a runner.
Yeah.
Like that was just to give me exposure to the industry and kind of get to know people. And I actually shadowed Julian Farino, who directed Giri Haji. So that's a really kind of cool connection. So I want you to talk me through you like being a driver. What was the thought process? Were you already studying filmmaking at this time, or were you completely new?
I was new. I just graduated from uni, and I had done a film and TV course at university, which was so I'd made some like student films and stuff. But I think it was the summer after. Yeah, it must have been the summer after I graduated university. My friend Harry, who I had worked with in a cinema for a bit, and he'd been in my grad film. He was an actor as well, and he was doing this film called Cass, which is just like football hooligan movie. And he rang me up and said they were looking for runners and drivers. And mostly I was a runner, but I would also drive the lighting truck in the mornings and in the evenings and stuff. So I used to turn up. It was my first time on a proper set, and it was great. It was great and awful at the same time. I don't know what you found when you were a runner. Like, I loved it, but also slightly hated it because it was
kind of both.
Yeah. It's really difficult. It's really hard work. You don't really appreciate it, but you're sort of getting up at like 5:30 every morning and then working till like 9:30 at night. And I was totally, like, it was all totally new to me. And there's that sort of just the what a film set is like and the work ethic involved and all this stuff. But yeah, I was totally new, and they basically put me in this like, in my memory, like a really big truck to drive, this really big truck. And I'd never driven anything bigger. I had a Renault, like a little tiny Renault hatchback that my sister's car, which I had driven. Well, that was the biggest thing I'd driven at that point. And they put me in this massive truck, and I had to drive it all around London. And I broke it.
Whoa!
I broke it. I drove out of Bethnal Working Men's Club. We were filming in there, and I drove out too fast, and there were these little sticks that stick off the back of it, and they got caught on, I don't know, something like a speed bump or something. I just ripped like the whole back of the truck like half off, and all of the lighting equipment, everything was sort of smashed. I was rubbish. I can't believe I didn't get fired the whole time.
Oh,
but it was a whole experience. But I look back on it very fondly. And still sort of occasionally bump into people that were sort of worked on that movie and did stuff. But that was my first experience of a film set.
What year was that?
I'd have to look it up. 2008, something like that.
Wow.
Maybe
okay.
2007, 2008. I think around then.
Yeah. So going back about 13 odd years or so.
Oh man, yeah, a long time.
Yeah, no, that I'd crap my pants with that, especially like trying to impress people on set and then to have like an accident in this car, that would just make me like,
Oh
because
yeah, awful.
yeah, because for my experience, mine was more like work experience. I'd come through a youth group that had kind of connected us, and
Yeah,
I got to do all the departments, so it was like shadowing all the departments.
right.
And I remember, like, I always knew I wanted to be an actress, so it was the torture of it is I just want to be doing that. I want to act with them. And then, but actually now in hindsight, learning all that when I got my first TV job, which was like a massive production, if I hadn't been on set and if I hadn't been privy to all I'd seen and learned, I would have probably frozen, because
Yeah.
you just don't realize how much people are actually on the set when you're doing your thing, and how much kind of components go into TV. It's so different to theatre, you know, you can't just
Mm.
get on with it. There's everyone else involved. So I want you to talk me through your journey, because I also read that your film, so Invasion,
Mm-hmm.
which is just getting made or just got made and it's out soon, right?
It's been they filmed it last year, so it's in post production. So I guess maybe sometime this
Mm.
year. I'm not
And that's
sure.
got some heavyweights. We've got Octavia Spencer and Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, good cars, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
You wrote that, so you won the Brit list, or you was nominated on the Brit
It
list.
was on the Brit list. Yeah, that was a weird one. I wrote that. That was one of the first. That script was really big for me, but it was years ago. I wrote it like when my I have two kids. I have my when my eldest son was born. He's
Mm.
9 now, almost 10. So this is when I wrote it. I wrote like a flurry of scripts, which looking back are all about parents being murdered by their children or something awful happening. Like, and I was really like unaware at the time, and then later looked and I was like, oh, I think there's some sort of Freudian thing, that sort of psychological thing. But it was like a sort of, I mean, the film's changed so much from the first draft that I wrote. But I wrote this script.
Right.
It was almost like a horror movie about these kids who had been sort of, I don't know how much I can talk about the plot. I think it's changed anyway. And these kids get like abducted by their estranged father, and they go on this like sort of journey, and it's a sort of, there was sci-fi elements and drama elements, and like it's like the first draft definitely had these sort of horror elements. I wrote it in a week. I wrote it really, really quickly,
In
and
a
I was like really
week.
in a week, yeah. Like, and it's like
Wow.
total sat down and like wrote it in like 7 days, and I got and it did like, and I sold it to Film for and this company called Raw, and yeah, it got I think it was like third or fourth place on the Brit list, and it got me an American agent, and did all this stuff. I thought it was gonna be like, it was really like big. I thought it was gonna like sort of change my life, which I guess maybe in a way it did. But then I spent like the next 7 years rewriting it. Like I thought it was going to get made straight away, and then it became this like not it would very sort of lengthy process of trying to get it actually made. And we had a different director for a while attached, and then
Mm.
Michael Pearce, who's the director, came on and did a pass at the script, and yeah, and then it got made. It's weird because I wasn't, as it got filmed during the pandemic in California, I think, so I never went on set or
Wow.
anything, so I haven't
Okay.
seen anything of it. I'm really
Right.
looking forward to it. But yeah, it was a really
Right.
big turning point, I think, in my career.
So many questions from that, what you just said. So when you said Michael Pearce has done a pass, do you mean he
Mm.
re-edited the script?
Yeah, there's something called a director's pass, which often
Mm.
happens when a director comes onto a project, particularly, I mean, mostly in film. There's a really big difference in how writers and directors are treated in the film and television industries. Like in film,
Mm.
directors have a lot more power, and in TV, generally, writers have a lot more power. So often, if you've written a film script, the director will come on board and they'll get to do something called director's pass, which is
Mm.
basically they just have they get a go at sort of revisions of the script. Like they can change the script a bit, sort of rewrite it and do all that. It's very common. There was the first time it happened to me. I had mixed feelings about it. I really like Michael, and I think he's done a really good job. But it's just, it's that creative thing of handing something over to someone else. It's always slightly like, I don't know.
Right.
But I think
Well, yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting because I know now you're exec producing and show running when we talk about TV shows. But in
mm,
terms of film, working with someone like Michael, do you have to sell, once you sell the scripts, do you sell your creative control, or do you have some form of control over it?
not very much at the stage I'm at in. film, I don't. You it's easier to become an exec producer in TV a lot earlier. Like I'm an exec on all my TV projects, but I'm not an exec on any of the films I've got going on. I don't think. Certainly not on that one.
So
So
you
yeah,
don't think? I should hope you know. You need to get the
think.
producer right.
Someone should tell me, right? There may be the newest ones, but I don't. I mean, definitely not on Cloverfield or anything like this. But this one, no. So when Michael came on board, that was kind of my involvement had sort of come to an end, basically. So he took over, which is just it's a weird moment, but it is sort of it's part of the process. You have to sort of it's just one of the things you have to accept. I think as a writer in the film industry, there's a less control.
Much less. Like I mentioned to you briefly before that I'm in the pitching stages of one of my concepts, and I literally thought, oh wow, they want to read it. Okay, meeting's going to be set up, and actually that's been pushed back even further from when I last spoke to you, so that's fun.
Right.
But you mentioned about Invasion writing it and then taking 7 years for it to be made. So I just kind of want to talk about that journey a little bit, because I think that's pretty interesting, because you signed with your US agent on the back of that. So did you sign with an agent once you had written it and you made a Brit list, and then it took 7 years, or was it in the 7 years that you met your agency?
So I already had a British agent. I got my British agent, who's still my agent. That was 10 years ago, I think. I got him.
Right.
And that was, I'm trying to work out the details, because I know my son hadn't been born but was on the way, and then I wrote.
I love how you use your children as milestones, by the way. I love it.
Finally,
like, okay, this didn't happen.
Yeah. This big event happened, and I know how old he is, so using that, So then he was born, so that would have been like 9 years ago, and that script was because it had a lot of interest in it, and the Brit list and stuff. My British agent was like, hey, you should think about getting some American representation. So I got spoke to a couple of people and chose an agent off the back of that. But then that American agent wasn't massively involved in Invasion. And then it would have been like, God, 7 or 8 years of just rewrites, and it's getting films made is this arduous process, but sure it can take a long time. I had another film called My Days of Mercy, which I'd written years before Invasion. It was one of the first ever scripts I'd written, and that was before I had an agent. I think I was still at university. I'd just left uni, but that then got made. I think it was like, I don't know, a couple of years ago, but that was an even longer process of like I'd written it and then it got picked up like, I don't know, 9 years, a decade later or something like that. So
wow,
the gaps can just be really big.
So that's a really cool story, actually. I was listening to that, but if you don't mind talking to my audience about how that process was, that kind of came about. So you wrote this script, and I remember you thought it would never get made, or your agent didn't think it would get made, and then it kind of did a turnaround for you. So
yeah, it was a massive turnaround. That was one, because that was the first script I've written, I think, that was set in America, and it's about these two women that have a relationship, and they meet. The premise is they meet outside of different prisons when there are death, like executions going on. So we've got this weird premise that's all about like death penalties and LGBT romances and stuff. And it's like this tiny little movie, which probably would never have got made at all. I mean, there was nothing sort of commercial about it. I mean, the film didn't do very well, so I mean, it really wasn't anything commercial about it. But and we weren't really trying to do anything with it. But then it was. Elliot came out as gay, and his agent was at the same agency as my agent, and that agent was sort of just asking around, saying, "Does anyone have any films with gay female leads?" And like my agent just happened to say, "Oh shit, I've got this script that my client's written that no one's interested in," and sort of dusted it off and handed it to them, and then that ended up being something that Elliot and Kate Mara were really interested in doing. And so it was just very serendipitous. That's the weird thing about this industry. So often you just like, it's just happenstance, it's just by chance that these things happen.
I knew you was going to say that, because I do want to touch on that chance sort of by luck thing, because I think when you're creative, there's a lot of work done in sort of a dark tunnel, and you're just chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. And then at some point, you start scraping something like tangible,
Mm-hmm.
and things start to snowball. And when I heard that story, I thought that, like, I would have initially thought, oh, that's such a good luck. Like, that's good luck. But actually, I think there's something about being on your grind or your hustle and kind of getting to a point where things start to happen for you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like
Mm-hmm.
that is
Yeah.
not a coincidence. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's like your agent has the script and he's on your agency and the
Yeah,
connection and
you've got to put you've got to you I mean, it's that thing of like, what is that phrase, the harder I work the luckier I get, or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
It is that thing of like, you have to set some building blocks. You have to set some dogs running and see where they get to. You know, if you don't put anything out, then you won't get anything back. I think that is the thing. I mean, it's all of these, whether it's film or TV or music or art or even like non-creative industries. If you have to, there is a certain amount of just putting yourself out there, or putting your work out there, or just putting yourself into that space, and in the hope that something, whether an idea or a relationship or a thing, just something that you've made or whatever, will eventually hit hit someone else or make a connection or something. It's just, but yeah, you have to, it all starts with you creating something and putting something out there.
right, right. When did you feel like things really started to happen for you?
I think, like, I mean, there were different moments where I thought, oh, okay, maybe this is really gonna happen, because for ages it was just like, oh, I was just like this sort of, I was like, oh, I would love if I could break in and make this a career. And then there were a couple of stages. I mean, one was getting an agent for the first time. I got my British agent. I've been trying for years, because I hadn't
Whew,
like
tell me about it. Tell me
yeah,
about it.
right.
Yeah.
It's
Were you
difficult, isn't
with,
it?
oh my goodness, were you with a boutique agency at first, or did you just join? Because you're with independent, right?
I'm an independent now, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was with the agency.
Okay.
My agent was, but then my agent moved to independent, so that's how I ended up there. So I had been trying I tried for like 3 years. I think it took me to get an agent, and I didn't really know what I was doing. But I would just write to everyone. I would just send letters to like every agency in town, like, please, I'm looking for someone to represent me. And like every time I would get slightly closer. Like the first time I tried, no one even replied. And the second time I tried, some people replied but weren't, just to say no. And then some people replied and would read my work, and they wouldn't want it. And then, but like finally, I only ever got one agent to ever sort of meet me, he, like, I remember it was Christmas, and it had been so, like, I think I wasn't like that I wanted to give up, but it had been such a slog. And I'd had like all these, like, I'd had one rejection letter where the guy had like corrected my grammar in the rejection. He was like,
Whoa,
but yeah, I was like, oh no. And
that's
he was like, by the
brutal.
way, it was really brutal. He was like, yeah, we've got no space, and by the way, it's with a, doesn't need a apostrophe. Or so. I was like, fine, whatever, man.
And
Um,
because you're going in as a writer as well, that's
I
really taking
know.
a dig, isn't it?
I mean, my advice would be to check your grammar if you are writing to agents. But I was like, whatever.
And spell
And
your name correctly. Oh my goodness.
yeah, spell the name correctly. Do check your spelling. I'm bad at spelling though. I couldn't. So I'd had that, and then I'd had this. It was in December, because I got one of those, like, you've got a missed package notes from the post office. I remember going up to Angel post office, and it was snowing, and because it was near Christmas or something, there was like the line of people waiting for their packages was massive. I just remember standing outside this post office for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and it's snow and sleet and like freezing cold. And I finally got into the post office. I was like, oh, I've missed this package. Gave them the delivery thing, and they handed me, and it was my scripts being sent back by an agent, like saying they didn't do rejection. I'd like queued for
Wow.
oh no. And so then I was at a really low ebb. And but then I had one agent, like, who's, Jago, he's still my agent. He was like really, responded to my work, and asked me to come in. And I remember walking around Holland Park near his office. All the Christmas trees are out and stuff. I was like, oh god, finally got someone to represent me. And that felt like a real moment of like, maybe this is possible, like maybe this is a potential thing. And then we found out we are going to have a baby because I measure everything via.
I thought you meant you and your agent.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? Wait, we're gonna...
And then we cemented our relationship by having a child together. No, but so that, and then so that was like a massively like sort of life changing, like 2 or 3 months in my life when I was
That
like,
is
oh my god,
amazing.
and so that was a big moment. And then I think the other one was, I think probably like my first TV like gig. Like I wrote an episode of a show called Beaver Falls, which was this sort of um, like American set comedy on E4. And at the time, I was working in I was working this weird like office job. I was like a remote sort of I was moderating internet comments or some boring thing like that.
What?
It was like a really boring. It was like a stupid job I was doing, and they invited me in to like do this. They were like, "We'd like you to come in and be in the writers' room for the show." So I had to like call up my work. Like, oh, I can't, I just need a week off to be in this writers' room. And they wouldn't give me a week. They were like, no, you have to come in. You have to come in. And I was just like, no, you don't understand. I'm not coming in.
I
This
love
is like
that.
my dream. You're gonna have to find someone else to do my job. I'm not coming in. So they eventually. So I think they fired me or I quit or something. But getting in that room and being being on that show was just like again, it was just like, oh wow, it actually might be happening. So,
And that happened because your agency put you through to the production? Was that all?
Yeah, that was my agent. Yeah, your agents would set you up with loads of general meetings. You just go around and meet people, have a cup of tea and a chat and stuff. And, I'd met the producers of that and we'd got on and they'd read some of my sample scripts, I think. And it was like, yeah, it was just a good meeting and opportunity came about and that was it. And then you've got a credit and, it's like you're talking about that sort of snowboarding thing. Once you've proven to like enough people that you can do, something, then you opportunities create more opportunities. You just have to, be there to take them.
I quite like hearing similarities between other creators and actors because as an actor, we're just so used to rejection. And rejection is the name of the game. Someone told me this when I first came into it, and I was like, yeah, I'm tough skinned, it's fine. Rejection is the name of the game. Like, I don't know any other rejection as deep as acting, but I find it quite. It took me some years to figure out that we're all on the same side.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
went to this it was a screening, and I think it was by Universal, Warner Brothers, one of them. And I remember like being in this section, and I ended up like sitting with directors and producers and what have you. And some of these directors have done like quite a bit of work, and we got into a conversation where we talked about how a project could come about and just kind of like the seed or the baby stages of a project. And I just remember them talking about going in and pitching themselves, and I thought, huh? Because it sounded like an audition. They were going in and having to explain how they would do it and their take on it. And to me, that sounded exactly like an audition. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that you guys had to go through this stage as well. Like you've just done it before we've come on board, but you've had to go through a similar stage. So that was really interesting. And it kind of takes me to you. So you've spent years, trying to figure it out, having your scripts returned back to you right before Christmas or right after Christmas, fun. And then you get to a stage where you're with Jane Featherstone and you're talking to her about a plethora of projects, because I read you pitched Jiri Haji and it was a one-liner or something. There was no actual development to it at that stage. So can you talk us through that process? When you went to meet Jane, were you actually pitching something? Because I have a few friends who are at the start of their writing careers, and they're going into these studios and pitching stuff that they've worked on, and the studio's like, okay, so what else do you have? And one of my friends was like, oh, okay, I've got this and that. They're like, oh, we like that. Can you send us something like that? So it's like, wow, they're actually looking at the voice as opposed to the actual script sometimes. So so talk me through that process and how that came about.
Yeah. Well, that was I'd worked on this show called Humans, where Jane was the producer, and then after that, she had just started her own company called Sister Pictures, and because we'd got on when I was working on Humans, and so she basically she just invited me in for a cup of tea, like, and because you just basically just sort of to say, we enjoyed working together, and she liked what I'd done, and did was looking for a sort of roster of product, projects, product.
You are the product, son. You are the
product content, product, yeah, project art, darling.
Oh, that's quite good. Product. I'm just gonna put that the big banner under your picture. Product.
Yeah, exactly. Coin it. No, but they were just looking for stuff to make, and so I went in and talked to her, and I had like 5 ideas that I was just sort of rattling around in the back of my head, and one of them was Giri Haji, which was, I mean, it was just, I think it was just like Japanese detective comes to London, like maybe has to look for someone, and that was like the whole bit. That's all I had, because again, that was a really old idea that I sort of vaguely had in my mind for I mean, for years. That my girlfriend had been doing a master's course, like 7 years ago or something, and she'd met this Japanese detective there, and just been telling me about him and what an interesting sort of character he was, and that has just kind of stuck. So I had it on a list with, and then I don't know what the other ideas were. I don't think they've ever got made, but that one just sort of stuck out, and she chose it, and I don't know why. Like, I'm not sure what particularly sort of, I think she liked the idea of going to Japan, maybe. Maybe just was like, I know.
Just a bit of a trip.
Yeah, just a little holiday, maybe. I mean, sometimes maybe it was just that, but yeah. So, and that was kind of, that was the beginning of that process. Yeah, sometimes it's just like getting one other person interested in, like, one of your silly ideas.
And what I quite like about this conversation so far is you've referenced, just getting one other person interested in your idea. You talked about your agency, one person. I kind of think that same way, because it's such a big industry, right? It's so grand, and it can make you feel really overwhelmed and like you're drowning. But actually, you just need one like agent. I remember when I was like, just one person to respond to you, even if you're irritated. 60, if one got back to you and signed you, that's one person that signed you. And I think that's a major kind of step for a lot of people who want to come into the industry, whether you're an actor or a writer. It's just, there are so many people out there, but actually you just need one to form that relationship with, because it is a really intimate relationship. I think, like whether you're with your agent, I'm not sure how it is when you start working for a producer very closely, but the nuance is you kind of have to understand each other, and so in terms of working on Giri Haji, that was your first exec producer credit, was it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So that's a step up, from like a major step up. So what's the difference then? How do you find it was going from being a writer to now exec producing and writing all 8 episodes?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main difference is that you are involved in so much more of the process. Like, when before, I'd just written other episodes of other people's shows, and that's all you do. Like, you come in and you write your episode, and then that's it. That's what you do. But as soon as you're the exec, or it's your show, it's like you're involved in hiring directors and all the heads of department. You're in charge of, like, well, not in charge, but you're just a voice in the room. It's all about getting your voice in the room. Do you know what I mean? It's
right. So you're being pitched to now.
Yeah. I'm getting rich. Yeah, but no, I mean, you and casting. You're there in auditions, or watching the self tapes come in.
The scary one, the scary person watching our tapes, guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, listen, I did. Well, I saw your self tape. So that's what you sit there with all
What
of
did you think? What did you think?
You got the role, right?
How humble brag, I just needed a little.
We cast, yeah. Yeah, very good. No, it was really good, and I'm doing that at the moment. Got another show that's going to start filming in July, so we're at the stage of going through directors and DOPs and editors and production designers, all these people. So it's a really big step up, and then obviously you're involved in the production side, the filming side. I mean, to an extent. I don't go on set like loads and loads. I mean, I've only been on set once.
He kept coming on set, guys. He wouldn't leave us.
He wouldn't go. No, that's the only time I've been on set for that show. I feel quite bad, actually.
Really?
I really neglected it. Yeah, because at first I was like, they started filming, and I thought, well, maybe I can't go because of like COVID and stuff. And then they were like, no, you're allowed to cut. And I was like, oh, this is in Wales, it's just really far away. So man, so far.
Oh, sorry, we wasn't in sunny California.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not Tokyo. I didn't get flown out of Tokyo for this one. It's an industrial estate in Newport. No, but I will go back. But yeah, so they're sort of in the production and then post-production as well, which is a massive part, like being there in the edit and having, a say over the music or the pace of it or like what takes and all this stuff, it's like, it's collaboration. Like I don't quite buy into the idea of there being like this sort of showrunner, like, this main voice that has to be the one sort of creative voice for the whole thing. What I like about it is that you are at least, you're with all these other people, but you are at least one of them that gets to have a say in it. So that was the main difference. And then plus it's just, it's like it's your name on the thing. So if it does well or does not, you have to take the brunt of it.
Right.
Do you have other creative people in your family, or are you the?
No, it's just me. It's just me. Yeah. So I was a crazy one for a long time because it just didn't make sense when I quit my job to go for it. It was like,
oh my god,
why would you do it? But it's honestly one of the best decisions I've made. Like I'm still at the very start, I feel, of my career, but because I've been like on and off for years, and it's only the last. I think I quit my job 6 months before COVID. Fun. You really picked the right time.
Yeah.
And it was quite a good job. I was in management, so I was like, okay, money's gonna really dry up now.
Oh,
so yeah, but it kind of, so it was scary. It was a very scary time for me.
Yeah.
Never like not worked, and even though I'd had a bunch of savings, I was essentially not working really. But I think just putting my head down and just being so entrenched in this industry, I tried to lap up everything I could.
Yeah.
Anything. And I don't know when it started happening, but I think you soak up enough things, you just start to know things are happening. I was keeping abreast with the news, and yeah, when it started happening, it started happening. So
yeah, it's going well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited for the journey, and I think that's the exciting thing about being a creative. You just never know what's going to land in your inbox, what's going to come back. You just never know,
Yeah, you don't know where it's going to take you. It's really exciting. Scary, but it's exciting.
Scary, exciting. You kind of, I think if you knew it was going to happen, you'd be like, but then you'd relax. I think that fire up your backside kind of keeps you on your toes,
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about getting into being a showrunner, because showrunner is a real like American term, isn't it? It's a real American way of doing things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We predominantly have exec producers, but a showrunner is different in the sense that most showrunners will still be involved in the writing process, and an exec producer doesn't necessarily have to be involved in the writing process. Yeah. You being a writer, have I said that right? Because your eyes went.
Yeah, no, that's right.
I was like, let me say that right. So he's like, what is this girl talking about? So you being a writer and obviously now exec producer on Giri Haji, that brought you into being a showrunner. Well, maybe not brought you into, but now you're a showrunner on Cloverfield and the Batman. How did that come about? And was it quite an easy conversation because you was an exec producer on Giri Haji, which got all these nominations? Was that quite a smooth transition?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, because like you say, like the terms are different. In America, it's very much a sort of showrunner culture, and in the UK, I don't think we quite understand it. We don't quite do it that way, and I don't know. Like, it's weird for me because it's the Batman show. Like, technically, yes, I've been brought on as the showrunner, but I wouldn't describe what I did on Giri or what I've done on Extinction or any of these other ones that I'm sort of writing exec producer as like classically show running. So you think about like people like, I don't know, Aaron Sorkin on The West Wing or David Simon on The Wire. Any of these people, there's another step up of control where you've got people that are not just creatively involved in all the aspects, but actual like genuine sort of producer stuff as well. Like much more of a sort of boss of everyone. Like like a real sort of figurehead of someone that's like almost like the CEO of this show, you know. And I'm much more sort of, I don't know, like like I was saying before, like I like the collaboration, like I like working with people, like I like being in control of things I need to be in control of, but I also don't mind sort of handing stuff off with like, so Clover. So I'm not like show running. Cloverfield sequel was just like that's a film. So I won't be like I'm just sort of writing my script of that, and then we'll see what happens with like I say, it's a movie, so who knows what will happen or how that will end up. But the in theory, the Batman show, people keep calling me the showrunner of it. Like my agents keep calling me the showrunner of it.
But
And people I work, but
Deadline called you the showrunner. It's in the
Deadline called me the show.
publications. Like, people know that the industry is calling you the showrunner, too.
Yeah, yeah. People, the industry. But at the same time, what's weird about it is obviously I'm not. I'm going over to this sort of American thing, and also like it's the sort of the learning process for me on this is like like it's like a Batman thing, right? Which is a massive, massive title, like a massive piece of IP, intellectual property. It's
Yeah,
like
you made it. Like you in levels now. Like that's
well, no,
levels.
I don't mean that. I wasn't trying to brag. No, I just mean that like my place in that world is like small. Like I know my place in the pecking order. Like you've got like the head of HBO and Warner Brothers and DC.
Right.
You've got Matt Reeves making all these people much more important than I am involved in this thing. And I'm just sort of like kind of coming over there being like, right guys, I want you to make a telly show. And like I don't presume to sort of, I don't feel like I could sort of walk in there and start like hiring and firing people and stuff. I don't, like, you know what I mean? I'm still sort of
John, what you thinking about doing?
Who can I fire? No, I would never. But you know what I mean? Like that's sort of like, there is that aspect of, I think the classical like American terminology of showrunner is basically like everyone's boss,
Right.
like I'm the boss this thing, and that's all I can think about. What bosses do? What do bosses do? Like they fire people. But so I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm the showrunner of that show, but I also know that there are like so many interested and invested parties in what happens to it that I'm still sort of just trying to work out like my place in the pecking order. Because when you feel like doing something like Giri Haji's, like this sort of, I mean, it wasn't low budget, but it was like this small sort of like foreign language drama on BBC Two. Like you can kind of, no one's like, you're not holding up like a whole channel with it. You know what, people want it to do well, but it's not. You can do whatever you want. Really, it's not that big a deal. But if you're coming into this massive sort of superhero world, you have to
honor it.
Yeah, honor it, and just know your place in the chain of command. I think so.
It's like know your place.
Yeah.
So
know your
do you feel like more pressure then, or you kind of used to it?
I know it's a lot of pressure. I don't know. I think I'm quite good at being now just like, I mean, what will be, because, I've had like ups and downs, and I mean, I really care about the creative side of stuff more than the sort of, the business side, or like even the sort of career side. Like I feel like I've, got to, like, I'm really happy with how my career is going, and I managed to sort of do that, but almost like slightly just sort of fallen into certain things or whatever. So I don't feel like, I do feel pressure, and I don't. If it all goes wrong, and there's always a chance with these things. Like, I mean, I could get fired from all of these projects. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it could happen. I mean, no, but it could. I mean, you never know. Hopefully not. But I think I would be fine if I could just think, you've got to just, because like you were saying, like with like acting, like its projection is it's an inbuilt part of it. And I think you have to sort of slightly embrace the idea that there will be good times and bad times, and you can't, it can't be too sort of, I don't think you let the pressure of the size or something, or like because if you sat down and just thought about it, it sort of maybe slightly drive you mad. You have to allow yourself that sort of creative space to sort of do, well, this is my thing, and I want to do this, and if it works, and if you guys like it, then great, and if it doesn't, well then, the world's going to keep spinning. We'll just have to figure out something else, or I'll go and do something else. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, yes, I do feel the pressure.
I feel it, but I also like your stance, and I think what you're doing there is you can't control what happens with the project, but you can control how you react to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's really, really important, being a creative, in my opinion. It kind of took me back to a story when I was doing this work experience, and I remember shadowing a director, and he's BAFTA winning director, and watching like over his shoulder as he was looking over the screen. And I remember he turned around and he said to me, "What do you think? Like, do you like it?"
Right.
And I was so blown away by that, because I thought, like, what's little old me, like, that's just coming into the industry, going to tell you that's going to change anything to do with anything? But then I think that was so important to me, because I realized at that point, no one really, like, no, everyone has doubts, basically, you know?
Yeah.
No one knows that what they're doing is 100% gonna connect with the audience, or gonna be what they hope it would be. And that's the strange thing about being a creative. You've got this baby, and you hibernate it, and you incubate it, and then you let it out into the world, and you don't have any
Yeah.
control over it after that. So
No, 100%. Yeah, that's the thing. You have to you have to just sort of be willing to go along with the ride of that. Yeah, like you say, you make this thing. It's not completely yours. It's all of these people's as well. You can't control. You can only control your aspect of it, and then you put it out in the world, and people either can like it or not.
you bring your best self, and then you release it. And I think as long as you know you did your best, I guess that gives you some sort of maybe comfort, or some sort of, kudos, and I did my best, and it is what it is, kind of thing. But I know I read somewhere, or did I listen somewhere, that you used to read, or you read all your reviews.
Did I say that? Yeah, I do read them. For better or worse.
And what stood out to me was that you said you remember the negative ones, and actually you kind of now appreciate the negative reviews, which I thought, oh, you're a bigger man than me. You're a bigger person than me. I tell you that.
Oh man, I appreciate some of them, not all of them.
Okay, that's good.
No, I sort of. There was a few. There was one in particular which was so bad, and I almost sort of grew this like almost affection for it, because I would occasionally read it, because it's almost like comically bad. It was a review of the film. I wrote this film called The Ritual, and there's a website, rogerebert.com. It was Roger Ebert was a film critic. He passed away years ago, but his website is still going. It was a reviewer on that website who just like tore the film apart, and me personally, and for some reason this really took against me. It's quite rare for a screenwriter to get mentioned in a review, but he name dropped me 4 times. Joe Barton's done it.
He was coming for you, right?
Yes, specifically. Yeah, I don't know what I'd done to him, but I was just I occasionally will read it just to sort of I don't know what, sort of laugh at it, but also just be like, you know what? I don't think it'll ever get worse than this. I don't think I'll ever get a worse review than this one. And, that's empowering in a way, is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe
I'm going to go look that up now.
Yeah.
Go find out.
It's awful. But yeah, I think it's important to know how people, react to your work. I mean, I know people that sort of say, don't read reviews, but I don't know. I'm just interested. I'm interested in what people think of it,
Yeah. No, for sure. So just moving along to kind of the Batman and Cloverfield. I know it is Matt Reeves obviously works across both of them. So was that the connection? Do you find that once you made a connection with him, it was quite easy to kind of flow into both projects? Because obviously you've got names like J.J. Abrams on that as well. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't know how much of this to say. I think it was helpful.
Tell me all of it. Tell me all. No, I'm joking.
I think there was an element, because I was talking to them about Cloverfield before the Batman thing came up, and I had spoken to JJ and people at Bad Robot.
Oh, we on first name basis now, JJ. Okay, okay.
First name initials are JJ. Okay, Mr. Abrams. I spoken to JJ Abrams, and the process had been sort of ongoing, and I think I did a really bad pitch, a really disastrous pitch to him, but I was still in the mix, and then the Batman thing started happening, and concurrently, and that sort of suddenly started to seem like that was going to happen, and I think partly because like Matt Reeves and JJ was like obviously know each other. They work like Matt directed the original Cloverfield, and they worked together in TV stuff and all that. And I think there was an element of the fact that they hired me for the Batman meant that almost like the Cloverfield lot were like, oh, well, if you're having him, we're gonna have him as well. That sort of
So
thing.
it's different teams.
It's different teams, yeah.
Okay.
It's different teams. Like I think Matt's an exec on Cloverfield and stuff, but he's so busy shooting, the Batman movie and all that stuff. So I've never really spoken to him about it. But I definitely think there was like a slight. I think maybe like JJ had seen like, oh, you're doing that, right? Or maybe we'll hire you. Just like to sort of be like, we'll both like, if you're gonna hire him, we'll hire him, and then we'll see. I think there might like slight sort of like competition, like friendly competition that I think that sort of slightly helped my case.
And it's like a co-sign, isn't it? If someone is great, co-signs you, then someone else is like, oh, he must be really good, and nab him here too.
That's the thing. Yeah, but that's it. That's so much of this industry. Is just once you've convinced like enough people, you convince like one person, someone else like, look, oh shit, they hired him. Like, and it is. It's all about confidence.
Actors talk about being offered roles without like reading them. Like, oh, I'm waiting for that moment where they're like, oh, I just thought of you when I was writing this character, and it's like it's just you. I'm like, yeah,
But yeah, well, that will come. But it comes from like, again, you're the sphere of how many people you know and all the contacts and stuff. And
well, I know you, and you're about to start writing, so
yeah.
So on that note, talk to me about, because I know some writers do write with actors in mind. Do you, when you go to write characters, when you're writing, do you feel like I see blah 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 playing this role, or are you kind of, I'm just going to write what I feel, and then I'll try and attach names to it afterwards? Like, how do you kind of go about that process?
I both. I mean, I've done, so I for the My Days of Mercy one, that was the weird sort of serendipitous thing about that, was I'd written that with Elliot in mind, and I'd written it when it was like Juno had just come out, so it was ages and ages ago, and I was like, that was like 2007 or something. I'd written this film, and I was like, oh, like they would be perfect for this role. And this is like way beyond, like, and like I say, like I didn't have an agent, didn't have a crew, anything. I'd written a script, then years and years later they ended up doing it. Like they ended up getting the script and producing it and starring in it, and it was mad. Like it was absolutely mad. I'd sat in like my living room in my little flat in East London and written this thing, and then like I was on set with these Hollywood people, and it actually happened, and the actual person that I'd imagined that role was doing it. It was really weird. That's sort of like the only time I think that's happened. But I think sometimes it's helpful. It can be helpful to have the image of someone sort of vaguely in your head. And like I'm writing something at the moment which I think like Will Sharp would be amazing for. So I just imagine Will doing it. And who knows if he would or not. But at least like you can maybe it helps you sort of shape the character slightly. Yeah, it can, and if any of these little things that can help make the character sort of more I don't know, authentic.
Gotcha. So we're nearly coming to a wrap, and I wanted to talk to you about your kind of creative process just a bit more. So I know you wanted to initially be a director.
Yeah.
He's like, she's pulling out.
Research.
You thought you was coming to have an easy ride on this show? Nuh-uh.
Foolish.
Yes. You wanted to be a director, and you ended up getting into writing instead.
Yeah, I did. Well, yeah, no, that was the original plan. I've only got into writing because I wanted to change it, like use it as a way of getting into directing. Like Richard Curtis was my because I'd watched Love Actually. He directed that, and I was like, oh, that man, he used to be a screenwriter, and now they've let him direct a movie, so maybe I can do that. And that was like the initial thing again, and then I don't know if it was sort of, it's that thing about trying to get into this industry, or like trying to become, I had no idea how to become a director. Like I felt like you needed to know people, you needed like money or equipment and all these things I didn't have. But writing just seemed like this thing I could do straight away, and I didn't have to leave the house, or I could just sit there and sort of do it. And then I think the process of doing it, I just became like totally sort of fell in love with it, and that became the thing that I wanted to do. Like it wasn't a stepping stone anymore. It was that was the thing. I still wouldn't mind directing one day. I've seen now, again, it's that thing of like you go and see the reality of it, how like difficult, physically difficult it is. I have like so much respect for the crew and the actors, but like people that have, you know, yeah, some of the
thought you sniffed or something.
The people on set, and just like going like the hours are brutal, the work is different, you know, and it's pressure and it's all this stuff. So I think I still would like to do, and we, you know, if Giri Hadji's got a second series, there was talk of me directing some of the episodes of that. And you know, I've got projects that I, you know, am attached to. Like I would direct this if it got made, but we haven't managed to sort of get them over the line. So there's still,
right.
Yeah, it's still sort of there as a thing. But I think it would have to be something that I felt really, really passionate about. I don't think I could just put the time and the hours into something if I didn't, you know, if you're just sort of directing it as like, I don't know, I'm going to do it because it pays the bills. I'm lucky enough that they've got, you know, writing that I can do that for. And so I think it would have to be something I'd be passionate about, just because like of how much time it takes up, and that sort of, you know, it's sort of all encompassing, like takes up your entire life. But, you know, it's all about, they're just like power mad. I remember sitting there, Giri Hadji being like, oh, why are they doing it like that? It's like that. You see like that, Julian? It's all about control.
Don't you come for Julian?
I know. What did you shadow Jules on? What was
it was Marvelous.
Okay. Oh, wicked.
Yeah, Marvelous. Yeah, that was some years ago now. But yeah, and
amazing.
it went on to win a BAFTA, so
yes,
good company. Good company, and he's great. He's great. Like takes you through the ropes. So yeah, shout out to Julian.
Yeah.
Just I feel like I need to get this question in because actors will probably kill me. But in terms of an actor auditioning for one of your shows, one of your plethora of shows in the future, what would you look to find? So what would stand out to you on a self-tape on audition if they came in to read for you?
It's difficult, isn't it? What you're looking for, I think, is, and that's the problem. That's the problem for, you know, for actors doing it, that you don't know what everyone else has done. It's that you're looking for that thing that is, I think you're looking for someone that just has a take on it, even does it slightly different.
Do they need to honor each word? Are you like, they need to say each word I've written because it's poetic and it flows? Or are you like, make it your own?
Well, I mean, obviously, I certainly poetry to it. But no, not necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't go too off it. The thing is, the writer, what is it? They'll have the words in my head. Like when I wrote them, I had it like down to the intonation of everything. Like there's a version in my head which I've got, and if you're like, I mean, the chances of you in your self-tape nailing that is like, it's slim, right? It's, you know, you're never going to completely get what's in my head. So I think I'm just looking for someone that, unless they completely nail the thing that's in my head, I think it's just looking for a take. Because the thing that happens when you watch I watch 10 or 20 actors going up for a part, and I think generally the thing that sort of makes you sit up slightly is when someone at least does something with it. Like I think there's a way, like there's just a reading, like a sort of a basic reading of every scene that you can do, which is like, you can kind of see what it's about. Like, okay, I don't know, like I'm crying here, or I'm like, I'm happy, or I'm sad, or I'm whatever, and you kind of, there's a rhythm to it. But I think that it's about slightly standing out from the crowd, which isn't to say that you need to sort of come on with like, I don't know, like a big wig on or something and just be like, you know, shouting it like Brian Blessed style. But I think it's simply, you know, I think it's similar to what like I give like writing advice to people, which is you're always told as a writer to find your voice in the way that you write, which is then you eventually sort of, I don't know, work out what that means, but eventually you realize that you just have a way of putting things on paper. Like you have a way of telling a story and a way of doing that. And if you think about like great actors, they have a voice, and like, you know, the obvious actors which sticks, like Christopher Walken or whatever, like Robert De Niro, whatever, like massive, but you know, they have a thing, like you can impersonate them, you know, like what they would do with it. Right. I think it's like finding what's your thing. because trying to sort of second guess what the director or the writer or the execs are looking for, it's impossible. You don't know. Like, you don't know what they're looking for, and they're going to see so many people. It's like, what do you want to do? What would you do that? Like, if you were watching this scene, what would interest you with this take? With this character, with this dialogue. And I think that's probably like that probably comes again with time and with learning your craft and more. But I think it's about sort of establishing, you know, your voice and what you would do with it. I think that's because I look at like Papa, it's like, because working with Papa in the scene, like he's got, you look at him and I May Destroy You or Gangs London, like really different characters, but there's still like there are, and it's not that he's got, it's him, yeah, there's that thing, and it's not that he's not capable of, it's not that he's not doing different characters, he is, but there's still, it's like that sort of thing, that sort of magic about him, which sort of carries over. And I think it's, to be, a great actor, I think you just have to sort of get that and put that into every different scene and every sort of different performance you give, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, but bring your most authentic self to the role.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
To end the question, what would be your advice to writers?
I think my advice to writers is, look, I mean, I think it's, I've always been like write constantly, write continuously, finish what you start. Unfinished script is no use to anyone. I think there is, it's finding your voice and finding your craft. There are two sort of facets to it. There's the business side and the creative side. You can work on the business side, and that is hustling for 3 years to try and get an agent is part of the business side, like trying to get representation, trying to get in the door. That's the business side, and that is hard work, but you can do it. The creative side is the more important though. That's the stuff that not everyone can do and everyone will do, but you have to make yourself the best version of yourself you be. But you have to just, you have to work on your craft, which is essentially means writing all the time, watching stuff, reading stuff, being attentive, working on your voice, working out, who you want to, what sort of writer you want to be. So yeah, as you know, write would be my advice.
Right. That was great, Joe. So we've got actually there is one more question I wanted to ask, because we've got a quiz, but there's so my agent, shout out to Mildred, she has this this thing she asks everyone, and she asked me when I first met with her, and that really drew me to her and made me really start to think about my craft. And she asks, what is your superpower? So, and it doesn't have to be creative related, but what do you think is your thing that's helped you in the creative industry, maybe every kind of aspect of your life, but it's unique to you and you can switch on?
Oh man, that's difficult.
I really like this question because it is hard, but
yeah, it forces you to be introspective about yourself. I mean, I think in terms of like my superpower for my career, I think I have a I just find it so I find it it's hard to use the word superpower and me in the same sentence. No, do you know what? I think I've got a good voice in terms of writing. I think I've always been good at I think I've been good at dialogue and good at writing people and being around people and like being able to put people on the page. And I think I've been able to sort of be good in meetings as well, and been able to chat to people and stuff, and then been able to sort of follow up with, like, I would say, like, realistic dialogue and creating realistic like characters. Like I think that would be like my power, would be like creating people that feel like real people. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, I like that. And it makes so much sense because obviously that was what you pitched to Jane Featherstone. It was literally the Japanese guy at the back of the classroom, wasn't it? So
exactly, it comes
there
back.
You go.
Yeah, full circle.
Fantastic. So loved all the answers you gave to our questions. Or my questions, I don't know who ours. And now to end the show, I have this quiz that I'm going to do on each podcast. You're going to have a running score, okay? So any guest that comes on is going to know about Joe Barton and your score. And if you're killing it, they're going to know and they're going to want to beat you. So you're okay. Really the star of this quiz. So you've got to really just kind of like put your name on the
Okay.
map. Otherwise, it's just
Oh,
like anyone's
man.
gonna come and beat you. and if you do well, you're gonna like, your name's gonna be mentioned to all my guests. So, and I'm hoping to have
Yeah.
some pretty dope guests. So, yeah.
Well, eventually, right after this one. Yeah, okay.
I'm lining up. What are you talking about?
Quiz.
Hey, you ready?
Yes.
So, question number 1. The 2010 film, The Social Network, was about the creation of which social media platform?
Yeah, Facebook.
Ah, nice and easy. Ding, ding. I'll give you a tick.
Thank you.
So, very cheekily, I think I read somewhere that you are a fan of Love Island, is it?
Oh man, yeah. Once, yeah. Sometimes.
So this should be so easy for you, okay?
Oh, no. Okay.
What are the names of the 2 winners of Love Island Series 1?
Oh no, I didn't watch series 1. I didn't watch series. I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know.
so you don't know.
Lucy and Adam.
Ding ding, no, wrong.
Oh.
You're not that much of a fan then, are you?
Fake fan. Plastic fan.
That's it. Okay, number 3. What was the highest grossing film worldwide in 2019?
Oh, pre-pandemic. 2019. Avengers Endgame.
Woo, that is good.
Yeah.
You got that. Yeah. I'm really surprised. Checking you out. Okay, question number 4. Which singing superstar has written, directed, and executive produced Black is King for Disney Plus?
Black is King. Was that Beyonce?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Oh, you're really good, Joe. Okay, question number 5. Who directed Parasite, the first foreign language film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture?
Bong Joon-ho.
Yes, it was.
That's it.
Oh, you're good at quizzes, aren't you? You was pretending that you was like, oh, I don't know.
Okay. I get a Love Island one, man. I'm kicking myself.
Question number 6. Which actor plays Stephen Hawking in the 2014 film The Theory of Everything?
Eddie Redmayne.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, you on a roll. I'm gonna have to make these like harder for the next few rounds. No, I'm joking. I think these are actually quite. Okay, so number 7. Which ex-Skin stars plays the lead role in horror film Get Out?
Daniel Kaluuya.
Correct. I'm looking at you like.
He was in Cass. I think he was in Cass. He was in that film I was a driver in. I think he had
Was
like a
he
really tiny role.
Cass?
I think he had a really, really tiny role. Was it Daniel Kaluuya? I don't know. Maybe. I'll look it up.
Full circle moment.
There we go.
Question number 8. What is the title of the first ever Game of Thrones episode?
Oh man, the first ever Game of Thrones episode. I have no idea. Would it be something like the Wolf Pack or something?
No, winter is coming. And the thing is,
Oh,
I feel like if you
makes
had guessed it, you probably would, because they always say, isn't it, winter is coming.
When it was coming.
Number 9. John Singleton is the youngest person to be nominated for Best Director at the Oscars. For which film was he nominated?
Boys in the Hood?
You got
Yeah.
it! You're on fire! There are a few questions I threw in here that I was like, these are tripwires. And you've got all the tripwires. Number 10. What is the name of Batman's butler?
Alfred Pennyworth.
Brilliant. If you didn't get this,
yeah.
I think Matt Reese would be on the phone to you.
Then I would be fired.
Whoa, you are like right up there. 9 out of 10. I'm impressed. Yes. And the only one you got wrong was a non-scripted TV and film question. So actually,
that's it.
That's pretty dope. You know, you did your thing. You came in and you smashed it.
Yeah, let your next guest know.
He's like, let them know. JB was in the studio. Thank you so much. It was amazing having you on the show. Really, really great time chatting to you. And I really appreciate you sharing sort of so much knowledge and giving value to our audience. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.